Welcome to a new episode of the Masters of Search Talks. I'm super happy to introduce today's guest, which is Margus Veeber, who is head of web at Pipedrive, one of Europe's most successful SaaS unicorns, competing with the likes of HubSpot or Salesforce. Pipedrive has had great success with SEO over the last years, driving more than 500,000 monthly organic visitors and thousands of signups. What makes Margus particularly interesting is his unique perspective on how web strategy and conversion optimization intersect with the changing search landscape. His work on optimizing Pipedrive's multilingual website for conversion sits right at the intersection of where traffic meets business results. So Margus, first of all, thanks so much for being here. Can you give a quick intro about your role at Pipedrive and what your day-to-day looks like?
Sure. Thanks, Nicholas, for having me. I hope I can provide some value to your audience. Shortly about me, my name is Margus, head of web at Pipedrive. I have been in Pipedrive almost for 5 years already. And in simple terms, I lead our global web strategy and operations, making sure our website just doesn't bring the traffic, but actually it converts that traffic into the signups and revenue. And in general, just supporting the whole business with web-related needs, requests, being a strategic partner across the company. Because at the end of the day, the website for us is a critical business asset. So we want to make sure that everybody are happy, everybody can get their part done on the website. And that's where we come in, helping them with everything. And on day-to-day basis, there's really so many different things happening. At the end, I want to make sure that my team is in a good place. They can deliver their things. We are constantly focusing on the growth, conversions. We have a vision for the web. We are working on systems to make things more scalable, more efficient. We're working on a tooling, seeing what's next for us, what's the next tooling to bring us into the future. And yeah, so there's so many things happening on everyday basis. Every day is different. And I think that makes it really exciting because web is really sits in that intersection where like you work with marketing teams, SEO, paid media, product, sales, legal, whatever team basically you can imagine, we're going to work with them. And that's the most exciting part, I would say.
Nice. You already dropped a few keywords, and I'd like to dive into a first one here a little bit deeper. So you describe yourself, I think I read it on your LinkedIn profile, as leading web strategy and operations, focusing on two things: improving conversion at scale and positioning the web team as a strategic partner across the company. I found this really interesting, and I think it tells a lot about your vision of how you work together with other teams. Can you break this down for us a little bit?
Yep, sure. So improving conversions at scale, this is something basically for us where we are really trying to figure out all of the ways that we can improve the conversions. It can be A/B testing on the key pages, because at the end, the conversion for us is not just the homepage, not just the pricing page. There are a bunch of different key pages. What kind of traffic we're getting, what kind of pages are we using for those traffic, how we are optimizing those pages for that specific traffic. So there's all of that part, but then you have this part that you have different languages. You want to make sure that, you can test there. You can have multiple types of different tests. So there's a lot of different ways to scale it. Also, you can work with SEO team, paid media team, help them to test different things and support them to create that kind of win-win situations. So that's the improving conversions at the scale at the end, that you just work on all of the different levers that you can do to improve the conversions, and at the end help the customer to have a better journey on the website. And yeah, as a team side, as a strategic partner, web team oftentimes might be like a executional part, but at the end it's really being there for a partner, advising them, helping them to do some things, helping them to focus on their core strengths and then pulling things off from the website perspective. So yeah, there's a lot of happening in that side, and I think it's really valuable to have that kind of web expertise and helping people to really get their visibility into the website wherever needed.
Can you share a project either that you're currently working on or that you have recently worked on? Of course, nothing that the colleagues at HubSpot and Salesforce shouldn't hear, but just for the audience to get a little bit of a more operational understanding of how this collaboration looks like, where you work together with product or with SEO or with paid media?
Yeah, with SEO, we work together a lot. I feel we're really good partners together, and we're always trying to, whatever they need to make happen on the website, new SEO optimized pages, we are going to help them to publish those things. If they need to optimize some pages, we are going to help those things. And then where the strategic part comes in is that we're going to really work together and advising them to see like, hey, maybe we should approach some things differently. Let's go back 1 month, let's see how something that we did for them, how is that working, So it's always kind of working together instead of just delivering stuff that different teams can request from us, but it's always seeing, and going back and learning and then trying to improve everything. So yeah, with SEO team, we really work together on daily basis, but of course, product marketing, sales, sales for them, website is also a key page, key place to be. So figuring out with them, like how they can leverage it in the most efficient way. So yeah, I could bring a lot of examples, but the list is going to be really long.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks so much for sharing this already. In your intro statement, you also mentioned tooling. So the systems you're working with, the tools that power the web strategy at Pipedrive. And I noticed that you're quite passionate about no-code solutions and headless CMS. So can you share with us what the setup of the website and everything that you work with as a web team, how this looks like?
Yep, sure. Like personally, I'm just huge fan of no-code and also low-code solutions because I can see that it's just enabling people who maybe doesn't have a coding skills, but it helps them to just do so much. Like I remember the first time when I started using web platforms that were no-code based, and suddenly you just managed to do so many things that before maybe needed coding and needed engineers. So personally, just huge fan. But from Pipedrive perspective, we're definitely not like too mature yet with no code because then we're still a bigger enterprise. So, we need to really be careful how and what we're using. But on constant week by week basis, basically figuring out what are the next steps, how can we start plugging in no code? Because for a web, we use headless CMS where we need engineers to build that kind of thing. But the headless CMS allows us to really build most of the stuff without needing any engineer support and dev support. So that's really good. Developers have built a really good solution for us. But how we are starting to use no code is more that we are connecting CMS, for example, with Airtable, ideal no code tool, really, really passionate about that one. And then starting leveraging no code solutions inside of Airtable. And when we have connection with CMS, we can use AI inside of Airtable, we can use automations inside of Airtable, and seeing how we can scale more, we can enable SEO team also to do more stuff, even without going to the CMS and just leveraging no-code tool like Airtable. So that's the one way and there are other tools that we are exploring and using, just seeing where can we slowly, step by step, starting to integrate different no-code tools. And there's always like part of me that's exploring different kinds of web platforms. We know Webflow Framer, which more and more in last years they are getting more enterprise ready. A couple of years ago, I would say they were maybe that enterprise ready yet. Today, that kind of big players are already really good for enterprises. So keeping my eye on those things and kind of balancing out, like, does it make sense to migrate to something? Maybe it doesn't yet. Can we do it in some different ways? And yeah, automations is definitely something where I'm quite bullish, and especially automating small things for the team. Those small tasks that every day take a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes here and there every day. And things that are easy to forget. Using different no-code automation tools like is it Zapier, Make, N8, whatever at the end, but just leveraging that kind of things to really automate small things. Team will start trusting that kind of tools and builds more confidence. So right now, setup is kind of like this. And of course, for A/B testing, we have a separate A/B testing tool where we can also do some things without code. Some things might need coding also. But yeah, exploring with different tools and constantly trying to plug in new tools, test it out at least in smaller scale, and then seeing where can we really take it.
Very cool. So just for me to understand this correctly, is Airtable then your CMS, so to say? So is the content of the pages hosted in Airtable, or do you use another CMS that is then connected to your headless environment?
So we have a headless CMS, which is like the main CMS, but from there we are pulling information into the Airtable. So Airtable can be the place where we can control the content if needed, but we can always do it in CMS. But I just see that, Airtable can enable quite many cool things, what maybe CMS couldn't do it. So, but yeah, CMS is still sitting separately in that sense.
And what are you using as a headless CMS?
It's a Craft CMS.
Ah, okay, cool. And would you recommend it to other folks that are working like with websites at the scale of Pipedrive?
I think it can be really good. Like it's really customizable and flexible in that sense. But of course, there are quite many different headless CMS. There's also many no-code web platform. So at the end, it really matters like what's your setup, what's your needs. For us, when we have 23 languages on the website, we need setup that really enables us to scale that kind of things. So yeah, it works for us right now, but of course, future can bring different solutions. Let's see.
Okay, very cool. We've already talked about the scale of Pipedrive and the scale of the web operation. And I think another very interesting point is your international presence. So Pipedrive has a strong international presence with sites in Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, many other markets, obviously also English website where you get a lot of traffic from the US, UK. So how do you handle conversion optimization or web strategy across these different markets and languages? Are there any differences? Anything you can share about that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So one thing that has been part of Pipedrive since the beginning of Pipedrive is that we want to be local. We want to make sure that, we are available for so many different countries. So our app is, I think it's 23 languages. Number is getting quite big already, so it's difficult to keep track. But, we want to make sure that the app is in that language and therefore also the website is in that language. So, if local markets, they want to use the Pipedrive, they can do it in their own language, which I think is a big difference between many other companies, which, sometimes maybe it's just English or maybe just key languages. But yeah, we really try to make sure that we are there. So that's always the base thing. We want to make sure that we are localized, translated to those languages. People can use it in their own native language. Of course, the scalability question is the big topic at the end. How can we balance the scalability and local needs and, optimizing the conversions? How we are approaching it right now is that, we're focusing on key languages where we can get the most traffic, also where we can also test more. There we are exploring different things, how to optimize it for local market, if it makes sense, because oftentimes many things might not make sense, but if you do it, you have a huge future cost. So for me, the key thing is always to consider the future cost, because if you translate something, if you customize something for local market and later you need to change something across the website, there's a huge future cost that you need to go and edit those things separately. So that's always the balance. But yeah, what we are doing with the key markets and starting to do way more also in the future right now is that just testing smaller tests in those key languages, homepage for German, for example, testing out some small things, nothing massive at the end, because I think in general, we're already doing quite a good job, they're translated well, local people are translating them, but just trying to see if there are those small market specific things that we should really tap into that. And we have seen some really good success with like really some small tests. You just add something that some market really requires, or it's really important for German market, for example, and you add that thing and the conversion can just increase like a lot in that sense. So, but it's always a balance, and key thing for me is always to consider that it needs to stay scalable. It cannot cause a huge future cost for us, because otherwise, yes, we could, optimize something and make it super localized, but if in 6 months this creates like 5 times more work for us, that's going to be a problem. So always trying to look ahead a little bit, what's the benefit? Like, is this local optimization causing us or bringing us enough benefit, to take that future cost, future effort that it's going to bring?
Let's tap into that one a little more, because I think it's super interesting. The first follow-up question I have is, can you share what, for example, the small thing for the German market was? So was it like, can I think about it like in the US market, you use a G2 or a Capterra review badge, and then in the German market, you use like OMR reviews? Is it something like that, or is it something different?
Yeah, like that kind of things are definitely working. Like, local countries, they want to see, local customer logos, for example, local review sites and so forth. But for German market, for example, this was just testing if bringing GDPR information more visible for the homepage, if it's going to bring good results, because we know Germans, they love the security and it makes total sense. So, and we tested it in a super simple way, pulled it off in 1 day, basically check the results. And I'm not going to say the exact number, but increase for conversion from that small test, that was a huge one. Like, that's my favorite example still. And this came directly from like customer feedback. Customer was saying like, that's really important for them, and they didn't maybe get that information that fast. We made it more visible, and it works really well. So that kind of things, and that's why I'm really big believer in that kind of small test. Doesn't need to be a huge revamp of German homepage or Portuguese homepage. Sometimes just adding those small things that are really relevant to those markets, those can be the biggest winners.
Wow, that's a very cool example. I immediately feel the connection to what you said earlier about the teams really working closely together. So I can imagine that the support team or customer success team or whoever quickly shared the information. Can you share with us the time span from basically the insight being discovered, so basically the customer request or customer feedback, until the test was live and then the results coming in? So if I understood it correctly, the test was only running 24 hours, or did you just set it up with...
building out or launching the test
Okay.
that took like 1 day. I don't remember exactly how long that test was running, probably a couple of weeks or so, because at the end it always based on, the traffic, how much the traffic that certain language or page is getting. You want to make sure that you can trust the results, so you want to get to the statistical significance. But yeah, the time period, it can really vary in that sense, because we have a huge backlog of ideas. We're constantly, we have a constant process with sales team, customer success to get that kind of feedback. We know the customer problems that they have on the website, in the product, in the onboarding flows, in the sign-up flows. So it's really just prioritizing, figuring out what's the next things that we're going to do. And right now we're putting a lot of effort there and trying to scale that part. And then just to make sure that customers are getting the information that they need from the website.
But I already feel like this is such a big nugget, because I still talk to a lot of people, and I feel generally smart people that tend to look more at what their competitors are doing in terms of ideas for testing, backlog, etc., than to just look at their own customers, support tickets, customer success teams, right? Do you have the same impression? Because I think what you're doing with rooting your optimization ideas so deeply in your customers' needs is like, it should be the standard, but I think it's not yet across the board.
Yeah, that's very, very typical problem. Hands up, I have also done that mistake, but I'm not big fan of it, because looking competitors, there might be cooler design, whatever, doesn't mean it's converting better. It doesn't mean that it's solving customer problems. And we have done that kind of test where, like, you see, if maybe not even competitors, some other SaaS website, something looks really good design-wise, you try to do it, it's not the winning one. So not going to make that mistake anymore. And what's really working is that we know the exact customer problems. We're trying to find solution. How can we use website to solve those problems? And those ones most often are the winning ones. Chances for a winning test is way higher, instead of just looking competitors, because at the end you don't know the data behind their website, how well something is converting for them. And like, website is way more than just looking it visually. Many things might look good visually, but it doesn't mean it's actually solving the problems. It's actually converting. So yeah, but it's really, really typical mistake. And, it's part of the A/B testing that you get a lot of different opinions. We should test this, we should test that. If there's a customer problem that it's helping to solve, sure, let's do it. Let's get some data behind it. Otherwise, if it's not solving any customer problem, it's just nice design, then, prefer not to do that.
Exactly my experience also. We once worked, or we still work with this client, but we once had to do A/B tests for paid search landing pages, actually. And we had landing pages that we constantly optimized, like in iterative tests, and they were, in my opinion, generally working well. But then someone from the team said, hey, I feel they look really ugly. I want to go like in a different direction design-wise. And obviously, since we are not like blocking this, but we felt like, okay, let's do it. Let's test it. We spent, and it was a huge effort, because design is not something very objective, so you have a lot of opinions, etc. And we did some feedback rounds, and then in the end, actually the results were very disappointing. And then we took this new environment, so we switched from a landing page tool to Webflow, and then in Webflow we were basically rebuilding the landing pages we had in this old tool, which was canceled by then. And I think like this story tells so much in a nutshell about the thing you were also experiencing at Pipedrive. So really cool to see how you guys are approaching this. So can you share, because we've talked about A/B testing already, and I still see a lot of people, like from the the online marketing, from the search marketing and conversion optimization space, mourning the loss of Google Optimize, which was, I feel, generally a good working tool. But I guess that you have a pretty sophisticated tech stack there. Can you share what you are using for doing A/B tests at Pipedrive?
We are using a couple of different tools for the website. Mainly, we use Optimizely right now. We have also different tools inside of the sign-up flow and product. So we're trying to test everywhere, and if needed, we can connect them. But yeah, on the website right now, it's Optimizely.
Cool. And can you recommend it for people that are also working at sites of the scale of Pipedrive?
It works for us in that sense. There are also different tools out there, but right now I feel this year is probably going to be really critical in that sense to see like how all of the tools are catching up with AI, how they're really implementing it. So it's constantly like, keeping your eyes open, seeing what does the best work for you. But right now it helps us to test quite a lot, and yeah, no big issues in that sense.
Very interesting. So obviously the name of this interview series is Masters of Search, and I want to look a little bit closer at the search performance of Pipedrive, because obviously, as I also said in the intro, you guys have done an amazing job at building a search omnipresence. So between organic search, but also paid search, a lot of landing pages, but also a lot of content, etc. So I think we're talking hundreds of thousands of monthly organic visitors here, basically globally, which is like massive. From your web strategy perspective, how do you ensure that this massive amount of traffic actually converts? Because I still see a lot of people that might not have the traffic amount that you have, maybe a little bit less, but still they are very unsatisfied with how their organic search traffic converts.
Yeah, that's really good question. And like, true, a lot of traffic is good, but at the end it's not enough. It's like what kind of traffic you are getting. It has to be quality traffic, and how you're leveraging on the website. And even if you have a lower traffic, it makes so much sense that your website that then has to convert. Like even if you have 10 times more traffic, but if it's not converting, what's the point of? So, but that's where I also feel that having a web team is really beneficial, because I'm constantly like looking all of the different kinds of traffic that we are, is it organic, different types of organic traffic, paid, different types of paid traffic, how they're working for specific pages. And based on that, we can then figure out our testing plan, basically like, okay, what do we need to test on the home page? How can we test the separate pages that we have for paid marketing? Because all of the traffics are working in different ways in that sense. Everything has their own nuances. So, really trying to tap into those things like, what's the traffic? How can we leverage it? Where can we send it? And how can we test it for that specific type of traffic? So there's no one way to say, or like, that's the total traffic, that's the total conversions. There's so many different ways to go in that sense. But like how we're handling it in general is that we have this mindset, always have been, we have been testing on the Pipedrive at least more than 5 years, I would say already. We always want to have a test running on all of the key pages, whether it's organic traffic, whether it's paid traffic. We want to make sure that all of the best practices and learnings that we're getting, we are going to implement them across the web, kind of having this spillover effect that, if we got one learning from one page, from one test, but we see that the same thing applies to hundreds of other pages, then we try to leverage that one. Therefore, we are leveraging the traffic also. And yeah, but there's a lot of different things happening in that sense, and hence we're also ramping up the testing, trying to really solve the customer problems. Because at the end, traffic, you can have less or more traffic, but if you help to solve the customer problems, then more traffic it's just going to convert way better. And I think that's the big issue with AI nowadays, that people are really afraid that they're going to lose the traffic. I think that's kind of the wrong perspective to look. It's more like, what are you doing with the traffic that you have? You can have less traffic, but just try to leverage it more, make it stronger, convert more. So yeah, but there's a lot of different sites really how to tackle it. And also just working with SEO teams together, with paid media team together, to make sure that, we can help them, we can work together, we can share information, we can constantly iterate, share the learnings. So yeah.
So yeah, no, makes total sense. So could it be that, for example, if you run this successful test on the German homepage with the GDPR example you just mentioned. So can we imagine it like that you then think about, hey, would it make sense, for example, to also implement something in that sense across, for example, our content portfolio, blog posts, etc.? Could this be something where you try to leverage these spillover effects, or how can we imagine this?
Yeah, exactly. A perfect example. And we have done similar thing when we test some kind of, not like a pop-up or some kind of still banner, to increase the conversions. We see it working out really well. Why not to implement similar thing across the blog? You can all once test it again, not to assume anything that it's going to work the same way in some other page. You test it also in the blog, for example, and if it works on the blog, then you can scale it across the blog, basically. So that kind of things are always working out really well.
And one objection I always hear, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, is that in the blog, you basically have the same page template, so to say, or the same page format, but the content of the pages and the type of traffic you're getting could be very different between people searching for how to structure their sales pipeline correctly, up to what is the most efficient follow-up cadence or something like that. How do you think about running tests across a content portfolio, for example, specifically the blog, for example, where you might have very different user intents, very different content on there? How do you think about that?
Yeah, that's really good point, and it's always a key to understand what kind of traffic is coming there. But what we have done is you pick, for example, top 10 blog posts that are similar type, similar content wise. You test there because then you have a lot of traffic. You can test quite fast, and then whatever learnings, and if you got any kind of win there, you just implement it for those pages, or maybe for a key blog post. You don't need to across all of the blog, but you always know the traffic, those are the top 20, 50, 100 blog posts, for example, in this category. Let's do it there. And same goes to different kinds of traffic, and some blog posts, they are not even meant maybe for conversion because they are such a top of funnel content. Maybe we can do something else there instead of not forcing, but, suggesting them to sign up. Maybe we can just give some valuable content for them. So yeah, it really matters, but you can always kind of take it into the different parts and try to test in those parts.
Very interesting. I recently spoke to the founder of a startup, and they are, I would say, quite successful. Not successful as Pipedrive, maybe, but decently successful. And they thought about their blog and like their content portfolio as let's say the main purpose being just creating awareness. So when we were talking about conversion optimization there, they were basically not really buying into the point because they felt like, hey, this is not the purpose of this. And I can imagine that if I would tell you that the purpose of the blog at Pipedrive is not to convert into users, you would basically tell me to get the hell out of the room. So what would you say to someone that feels like, hey, blog and content, is this really something that will in the end help me drive more users or drive more pipeline?
I totally understand that perspective, and I think there's a lot of truth in that actually, but it's more, blog can still convert. Yes, it's not going to probably convert as much as homepage, for example, or some paid marketing pages. But if you have a massive amount of blog posts and it's still getting a lot of traffic and you can just increase the conversion a little bit there, this can bring a huge result already. Plus, I think the key thing here is always to understand that, yes, somebody lands on the blog, they are top of the funnel, they're not planning to convert yet. What's the next best step for them? So that's something I'm trying to always look out across the web. Whatever is the page, pricing, homepage, blog pages, what's the next best step? For many pages, it's a sign up. For a blog, it could be that maybe we should lead that customer or visitor to some landing page, which is more better for conversion, but they will, through that, they are already getting information, content, educational content, that they need. So it's just figuring out what's the best next step for different types of content. Because yes, like blog doesn't have to be only for conversion, but the part is still there, and there's always a part that's converting, and you should always still focus on that part also, while also figuring out, how can you lead the customer to the better position, so they can get more information. Because customer always like, I feel customers are really valuing if you are helping them to get into different places in a way that it feels natural, it makes sense, it's logical. they're getting information they're looking for. So, but again, that's where all of the customer problems, customer insights, research, everything like this will come in.
That's already the second nugget, if not the third or fourth. But I think I can do a +1 to that point of thinking about the best next step, because I once read the documentation. So it's a little bit of an analogy now, but I once read the documentation of Google's new ad placements in AI overviews, where they basically give advertisers recommendation of how to most effectively advertise in AI overviews. And obviously AI overviews, we will come to that in a second, are displayed also on a lot of top funnel searches and queries. But I think, and I mean, we have to be careful because Google has shareholder value, shareholder interest, etc. But still, I think they are making a key point there in the documentation. And they're basically saying, if you want an ad to convert well, so I'm paraphrasing, if you want an ad to convert well in AI overviews, always think about the best next step for the customer based on the query. And this makes so much sense. And I think a lot of people are struggling with thinking about, like, you have this thing that somebody enters into Google, ChatGPT, or wherever, and there are basically two dimensions I would always try to think about. A, what's before that? So what's the desire? What's the frustration? What's the pain? Where this is coming from? So why is somebody putting this query in there? And then what's the potential next step? How can we help them? What is the best next thing to do? And sometimes, and I think you guys are also doing this at Pipedrive, sometimes it might not be the software immediately, but it might be an asset, like a template, maybe a guide, maybe a helpful little thing. So what's your reasoning about that? So this, not because a lot of people feel, I think I still hear them talking a lot about how do we get the people to buy immediately? But I mean, there's a wide range of things you can do, right?
Totally agree. And we know our customer journey quite well. We know all of the different stages that customers are doing. It's something that we're constantly keeping up to date. So, we know where they're going usually, what kind of different steps they're doing, what are the user personas who are, looking out, when adapting that kind of new tool. So it's like, I totally agree that, there is a step where maybe you just need to start nurturing them. You need to start teaching them a little bit. Maybe they're first time CRM users. They need to know information like how to use it, what CRM is, what are the features, what are the benefits instead of Excel sheet, for example. So you help them to get ready into the stage where they feel suddenly that, okay, now it's good time. I'm ready to try out the tool. I want to give it a go. Because often it's like you cannot force them to use CRM if they even don't know like what CRM is or how is it working. So 100% agree. And blog is oftentimes good place for that. And it could be also like all of the AI tools. And I think AI tools will pick up that also quite well, that if our blog, for example, is helping to answer those questions, then AI tool will also do a good job.
And how do you think, you already mentioned nurturing, so how do you think about lead magnets? Or, I mean, there are loads of different ways to say this, conversion assets, whatever, but I see that you guys have like a wide range of different templates, for example, like sales employee review templates, sales order templates, free slide templates, all of that stuff. So which role do those like lead magnets, if you call it like that, which role do they play?
Really good question. In general, that's what they're playing, that we're just at the end giving out helpful content that customers can use. Exactly. Some customers might not be ready for CRM. We give them tools that they can start exploring already some things where they can also slowly start seeing that, okay, actually using a CRM could help them to solve more problems, or just some helpful content, or educating them with something. And yeah, it's we feel it, and I feel it. It's really useful in a sense, and we see like data is backing it up, that customers who are checking those informations, they're downloading those things. At the end, they will convert more because they just know more. They're in a better position as a potential customers to start using the tool. So
very cool.
You should always have that kind of things, because like you never have just one type of customers. You have customers who are already experts in CRM. They have used 5 different tools maybe in the past. You have customers who have never used anything, maybe just Excel sheet. All of them need different approaches, different educational content, different blog posts, different landing pages. Yeah, there are no one right or correct way only.
Yeah. Very cool. I think this is also something that a lot of very successful SaaS companies did. So I once read this Medium article from Jörg Hipper, who was leading also the web team at Personio. And I mean, Personio is also decently successful,
Yep.
I would say. I mean, I'm a little bit biased because I'm from Germany, and Personio is obviously a big German success story. So I can't be 100% neutral. But he had this very cool quote, and it's related to their strategy of also creating loads and loads of lead magnets, like from checklists to onboarding templates to vacation planning templates, all of that stuff. So connected always to a specific HR problem. And he said that balance is also giving the user what they want while getting from them what you want. Offer different conversion opportunities so they can just pick which suits them. Would you underwrite this quote?
100%. I think that's really good way to say it. And like for us, one of the biggest successful lead magnets, I wouldn't even call it a lead magnet, it's just educational pieces. Since the beginning of Pipedrive, our founders did like a sales course just to help people, learn sales, nothing related to CRM even, just learn the sales. And, we see that people who are going through that course, they are way more keen to also start using CRM because they just know more, they got the educational content. At the end, it's just about making sure that customers feel good, and then they will also be the really good customers.
But this is just another nugget, Margus, that you're dropping here, because you just said it, like they were doing a sales course and they were not doing a CRM course, because in the end, I would say for most software, it's true. The software is a facilitator for another thing that you want to accomplish. So if we're thinking about CRM, you want to accomplish better sales journeys,
Exactly.
at least for Pipedrive. Maybe also, I mean, Pipedrive has obviously also went more into some marketing features, etc. So this could also be something. But I think also for Personio, so what do you want to accomplish with the software? You want to hire people more easily, help your HR department or people or culture department make people more happy, make onboarding, offboarding, everything more seamless. So usually I think people think too much about their software and the category, right? Instead of thinking about what does the user actually want to achieve while using my software.
100% agree.
Yeah. You're dropping a lot of nuggets here, my friend. So this is really cool. I think very valuable episode already. You mentioned something where I feel like it's a little bit the elephant in the room, which is like AI search, AI platforms, however you want to call it. So basically people not only going to Google, Bing, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo anymore, but also going to ChatGPT,
Yep.
Gemini, to Perplexity. And we know that AI overviews, which is basically for everybody that's not that doesn't connect this keyword to something visible. It's basically this little box at the top of the Google search results where you get a little bit like a summary of the most important key points when you're searching something. And we know that AI overviews and tools like ChatGPT are already changing how people discover products. I think there's a lot of truth to that, but also a lot of hype, and it's hard to find the balance. I would like to hear from you if you're already seeing changes, for example, in where users land on your site, especially from organic search or AI search.
Really good question, and yeah, it's a big topic where, of course, we are always keeping our eyes out. I would say today it's a little bit too early to tell. Of course, we see traffic coming from ChatGPT and so forth, and the conversion in those from those channels. Right now, we can see that it is higher, like it could even be 3 or 5 times higher. But again, the traffic is still low enough not to make any assumptions. I think it's too early. It's more like also we have a fantastic SEO team, and what they are also doing is just constantly experimenting, testing out, because I would say, agree to disagree, with AI, there are no rule playbooks yet. There are no set, like you have to do it like this. Everybody are constantly exploring. You are sharing really good different tips, how to kind of, reverse engineer, where ChatGPT is getting results, should you go there also? All of that kind of stuff is that we're constantly just trying to play out, explore, see what works, what doesn't, but because for CRM also, user journeys, it's quite a long journey in that sense. It's not that somebody just goes to the ChatGPT, asks something, and they will sign up. There might be multiple steps before that or after that. So even if somebody used ChatGPT, for example, to compare CRMs, it doesn't mean they will come directly from ChatGPT. They will still might have 5 different steps, between, and there might be different person at the end who is actually signing up, from their sales team, for example. So it's just too early to make any big assumptions, because I know it's quite easy, and LinkedIn really likes that kind of bold different statements, but it's just too early to make any big assumptions. We are exploring, seeing what works, how the traffic's improving, how we are getting more AI traffic, how does it affect our general organic traffic. But again, there's just so many different ways, and same time the focus is still there, like how can we make the pages to convert more, even if traffic dynamics are changing in whatever way, how can we make it convert in better way? That's still the focus at the end. I think that should be always the focus, even if there are companies and people out there who are really worried that they're losing their SEO traffic. Still focus, like how can you leverage that traffic that maybe from AI is way higher intent than the usual Google traffic. So it's already different dynamic, which means your work might be way easier, to make them to convert. So there's a lot of different sides, and there's no one way to look at it, I would say.
I think also a lot of people in the past, they were just really blessed to get a lot of traffic from Google. So for example, based on creating glossary content or all that kind of stuff, which is now being particularly affected by AI overviews and also like AI chatbots. So people, based on them getting really a lot of traffic from these formats, I think they deprioritized or not enough prioritized conversion optimization, right? I still feel this. So when we, for example, talk to a potential new client, one thing that is, and we're talking about like organic search, we're talking about paid search. One first key thing that we're talking about is actually conversion optimization. So how can you leverage the traffic better, right? Have you also seen a shift like in mindset in your SEO team or in Pipedrive in general?
100%. Like we have a lot of discussions and collaboration with SEO team lately. I would say that where we're really focusing, like, how can we make those pages better? Like how should we approach in different way? And in general, I think what many companies are maybe doing, which I would say Pipedrive is doing differently, is that, we're diversifying our channels. And it's not just SEO, it's paid, it's brand, PR. I would say, again, just my opinion, but I feel visibility is in this era anymore. It's not just about SEO, it's brand mentions, that kind of things. AI really likes, founder-led content, PR, like we have also fantastic PR team, all of that kind of things where your brand is getting mentioned across different media outlets, news, all of that is going to also help AI. It's not just about SEO, and hence also the conversion rate is like a massive opportunity. So, but yeah, like I feel people are looking from different way. Of course, there are still people who are maybe a little bit too worried about just SEO, but right now it's definitely time to move away from just SEO and seeing like what are all of the other sites that are, you need to make sure that they will work together. So AI can also help your business at the end.
Let's tap into that because, let's imagine a customer journey. You also mentioned this earlier, which is quite diverse. So let's think about someone that, because actually this is also here a web mention or a brand mention of Pipedrive, this interview. Let's imagine someone that is like leading marketing at a startup scale-up company. They also have a big sales team. They are watching this and they're sending the video to their head of sales, for example, and tell them, hey, we're using HubSpot, right? But these guys at Pipedrive, they are doing a pretty good job. Should we look into that? Now they are, for example, going to the website. It's probably direct traffic. Then they're maybe going to Google or to ChatGPT, comparing to HubSpot, maybe reading through an article from you. How do you guys approach attribution? Because I can feel like this is a total mess with the company. So like no total mess in terms of your internal operation, but in terms of the actual customer journey with so many touch points across so many different channels like YouTube, ChatGPT, a PR story, LinkedIn, reading something from your founder, or maybe or seeing the sales course. How do you try to somehow accurately attribute which touch point drives how much user signups?
That's really good question. That's really good topic. I would say there's no, again, just one way to look at it. What we are doing is that at the end, again, we know our customer journey. So for different type of personas, different types of customers. So already kind of know that for that kind of customers, that's the final stage. So that's the last place where they are really starting to sign up for different types of customers. It's different. We are constantly looking, you can check like first touch attribution, last touch attribution, kind of comparing those things. We have marketing optimization team who is helping with that kind of things also. But yeah, there's no, and I think there cannot be like one way that will give you all of the like ideal overview, because it's like the real world is not perfect. The way customers are handling, researching, it's never going to be exactly the same for all of them. So yeah, but it's just at the end, we still know that, what kind of types of customers are coming more from paid traffic, what kind of more from organic, who are going through sales actually. So in general, we have quite good understanding of our customer types, and also we have a fantastic research team who is helping a lot with that kind of understanding in general, like how customers are approaching what are all of those stages, and that helps us in general.
So what I hear between the lines is also that you have to have conviction, right? So if you do, for example, PR, if you do brand initiatives, you sometimes just have to have conviction that will eventually lead to more people searching for Pipedrive, or also this dark social thing, like where they talk to their colleagues or where they ask for help. Hey, we're thinking about implementing CRM software. Should we go with HubSpot? Should we go with Pipedrive? All that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like it's typical problem with brand people that, it's difficult for them to measure their success, but brand awareness is such an important. That kind of podcasts are such important, but it's difficult to pinpoint that, your business increased so much because of just this one podcast. Same is going to the events or conferences, brand awareness is something you always need to figure out. You cannot pinpoint just one thing to everything, the business impact of this thing is that much, all of those things need to play together, especially now with the AI, like, SEO, PR, it all has to play together, because otherwise it's just not going to work out. And you cannot have different teams trying to just run in their own direction. You have to collaborate. You have to make sure that together it's going to be successful, because then it's one business. You want to make sure that business is going to succeed, not just your team.
Super interesting. We are already talking for a couple of minutes, and it's been super interesting so far. We got a few questions beforehand from LinkedIn, where we made the announcement that we will do this talk, and it's really cool. And I would like to hear your thoughts on these questions. And I promised to people who were asking them to get back to them with the answers. So shall we run through them real quick?
Let's go.
Nice. So the first one was, how do you balance CRO, so conversion rate optimization experiments, with the need to keep SEO pages stable?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's so many different sides how we can look at it. Like one thing is definitely like whenever we are A/B testing something, let's take the homepage and let's take some copy tests. We're always thinking about SEO, and we're always including SEO when we might touch or improve or edit something that might potentially affect SEO in a negative or positive way, because we don't want to have a winning test that we tested some really good headline and it's a winning test for conversion. But we know that if we would implement it, SEO numbers would just tank for that kind of page. So it's just collaboration. That's a key thing. In general, also from my team perspective, we have like divided team in a way that, we're helping SEO team with all of the publishing, that kind of stuff. We're optimizing as a different part of the team, but at the end, it's just the all has to work together. The same spillover effect that I mentioned, that, we're testing something, we see how can we spill over same thing to different SEO pages, blog content, different SEO landing pages, so we can also help them to win. So yeah, there's all of that sides, but collaboration is always the key, because teams has to work together. They have to share what are their plans, we can share what are our plans, how can we work together, how can we help them to test something so they can help to improve their numbers. And I think that's the point of web team. You're there to help all of the other teams to improve their stuff. Therefore, we are going to also improve our own team.
It's a very great philosophy. So basically, you're always getting the expert from the channel, so to say, on board. And if the SEO team, for example, gives clearance, like it's fine to do these changes, and we think this will not negatively affect, or even it might negatively affect, it's a calculatable risk. So we can do it.
Exactly. Like we have had many tests where like we know that there might be a potential impact. We consult with SEO team. They say, let's do it. And then, but still, like, that's not enough. You shouldn't stop there. You should go back 1 month, 2 months later, and together with SEO team, for example, check like, okay, what was the real impact? Like, did it had any negative impact? Maybe it had actually positive impact. Maybe it had 2 negative impacts. So should we roll back something? So, like, for me, it's such a key thing to always have that kind of cycle going on, that you should always. It goes to our web team also. Like, whatever we are executing for different teams, we should have that kind of loop. Like, okay, we did this for you. Did it actually work? Maybe we should do next time differently instead of just doing it in the same way on repeat on constant basis. You should always have that kind of system in place to go like, did it work? Should we improve something? Because then it's going to be also useful for all of the other teams.
Awesome. Shall we do the next question?
Let's do.
Next one, and I think you already tapped a little bit into that, but maybe you can share a little bit more your detailed thoughts about it or something interesting you found. The question is, I am especially interested in how AI search / AI overviews affects Pipedrive. Do they also see less but higher qualified traffic?
Yeah, like as I mentioned, like it's probably too early to really tell too much or assume too much. But yeah, we see like some traffic there. It's still not the amount of traffic we get from SEO or paid marketing. And we see higher conversion rate there right now, which is also kind of expected because the intent probably is already higher. Like if they're already, using ChatGPT to understand the competitors, our features, the intent is already higher. So it kind of makes sense that the conversion is actually higher. But yeah, it's more like wait and see, test out different things. And probably if we're going to have similar chat in 1 year, I could share way more and how it's going today. It's just too early to make any bold assumptions.
Awesome idea. Let's have this on tape. Let's do an update call in 1 year to see how things turned out, because I also feel like there's so much change going on. Currently, the next month will be so interesting, and checking in again in a year is a great idea.
Yeah. And again, like this testing mentality is the thing that everybody should consider here. Just play out, reverse engineer, see what works, see what doesn't. Don't do like massive projects that's going to take 3 months, because in 3 months situation has changed already. So just basically figure out what can you do this week and measure it next week, and just keep repeating the same cycle. Test, learn, test, learn.
Awesome. I think like as a company at the scale of Pipedrive, that you are working with this type of velocity is amazing. So I think there are a lot of companies at your scale that have lost a lot of the speed from their startup stage, and that you have this is probably a reason why you are still so successful, right? The speed, the velocity, like not taking 3 months to plan out something and then another 3 months to implement it. Is like, I'm amazed by that. I have to be honest here. So last question we got beforehand from LinkedIn is a little bit a different angle. It's, in which industries are you getting better traction with, and which ones are your priority if different?
Yeah, that's really a good question. There are probably 2 different sides. One is like, I would say there is no specific industry, because at then Pipedrive is made for salespeople, by salespeople, like our founders were salespeople. So whatever industry, whatever company has a sales team, salespeople, one salesperson, we are for them in that sense. So there is no specific industry that we're really targeting. Of course, at the end of the day, after all of those years, we have specific industries that are maybe more keen to use Pipedrive, because some industries might have more industry specific CRMs that they need some specifications that maybe Pipedrive cannot offer. But in general, the main attitude is still that it's just we're for salespeople. So whatever industry you are, if you're a sales team, salesperson, then you can use Pipedrive, get benefit out of that.
Very cool. I think a very clear ICP is very helpful, right? In
Exactly.
Aligning marketing and sales and all the operations. So very cool. Nice. I think we are almost approaching an hour, and it has been a blast so far. So I would suggest that we wrap things up a little bit. And for wrapping up, I always like to give people that are still watching or listening a little bit of practical takeaways. So I want to ask you, what would be like 2 to 3 practical tips you'd give to someone running web strategy at a SaaS company, maybe a little bit smaller than Pipedrive, maybe same scale as Pipedrive, who's seeing their traffic patterns change due to AI, what should they be focusing on to ensure conversions don't suffer?
That's a really good question. I'm probably going to repeat a couple of things, but I think that's also fine. First thing I would say again is just test, and test small. Don't test maybe even like a big thing. Test small. Try to do something every week, every month, every 2 weeks. See what works, what doesn't. Adjust, because the world is adjusting so fast right now that you just need to be up to date and see what works. Time for now, right now, next month situation is different. So don't spend months doing something. Test small always. And across, it doesn't need to be A/B testing. It can just testing mentality, experimentation mentality. Try to have it across different parts of your business at the end. Second thing, maybe when it comes to the SEO and traffic, just think about non-traditional ways to get your website into AI tools. It can be PR, it can be using Reddit. Brand founders being more vocal, doing that kind of podcast, events, whatever. Basically, figure out all of those different ways. Again, try to reverse engineer what works for AI. What kind of resources or sources they are using, try to see if those sources are applying to your business. Could you do something like this? So yeah, just think about non-traditional ways. And third thing, maybe even if you see traffic being reduced, optimize where the traffic lands, focus on the optimization, see where the traffic lands. Maybe don't think that much about the traffic itself. Think about where the traffic is landing and try to optimize that. Make sure that's top notch, and keep optimizing it. Never be happy that, now you had a winning test, it's optimized. Keep going. There's so much to do. Traffic is changing, people are changing, the ways they are looking for information is changing. So just keep optimizing wherever the traffic is landing for you.
Awesome. I haven't counted, but there have been multiple nuggets in this talk. So it was really, really cool. Margus, thanks so much for doing it. Thanks so much for sharing your insights, your expertise, your hands-on knowledge from Pipedrive. I think this has been invaluable for people. If someone listening or hearing this wants to see more of you, see more of your ideas, thoughts, content, whatever, where should people go to find you?
The best place probably would be just connect me in LinkedIn. I'm trying to share a lot about web world, optimization, conversion, all of that, basically a no-code tool. So hopefully sharing a lot of good stuff there, but that's the best place to connect with me. And of course, you can always follow Pipedrive in LinkedIn also. So, but that would be the best way to connect with me. And of course, if anybody has some questions, feel free to reach out. Happy to discuss it. Happy to ideate about different things. Just see where everything's going.
Awesome. I will put the link to your profile in the video description below, so people have an easy time finding you. I can't thank you enough for that. It has been awesome. I'm leaving this talk with a lot of inspiration, with a lot of new ideas. Thanks very much for doing that. And I wish you all the best for yourself personally, but also for Pipedrive. Keep crushing. I think you've set a great example in the SaaS industry. And yeah, hopefully we'll do an update call in a year and see how things are going then.
Thanks for having me. It was super, super nice. Let's do it again.
Thanks so much, Margus. See you.
Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye.